College football still on in Tallahassee. We will be on watch day to day, though. This is Florida State Seminoles Live, of course, with big game James Coleman. Bam, fifth quarter college football. What are you eating tonight, James?
I had a craving for waffles, so I got chicken and waffles.
Some good
with
waffles.
Strawberry syrup.
Nice. We got Logan Robinson from Noles Game Day. Leave off the S. That would be Noel Game Day, of course. And then also, of course, Jason Parker, NBC6. How you boys doing tonight?
I'm good. I see some new swag on Logan's head. I'm wondering, is that going to be James and I's holiday present here?
What this?
Yeah, your little swag on the head there. What's going on there? Huh?
You know, sometimes it's just the little things that just kind of get me excited, and just wearing something that I can actually, go out and whatever wear, and maybe have some people say, hey, I know that page on Instagram. That's all they would really find to know what the logo is. But finally, just some dad caps, and I know we got a dad over here, James. I'm gonna throw him one. I don't know if will it fit though.
Yeah,
I know.
Is it stretch or is it a back?
Got the clip. It's got the clip.
Yeah, the clip. If it was the snapback, I could get it. That clip ain't gonna work. No. That clip ain't gonna work.
Logan.
Now between the dome and the hair, it ain't working.
No, no.
Logan, I'm just saying, one of us has a birthday in 3 weeks. That's all I'm saying to you. It'd be nice in the mail. That's all I'm saying. Yes, I'm pandering, folks. That's all that matters. I'd like
You said you're gonna be mean to me earlier on the Twitter DM, and I don't know. You might have to make it up tonight.
I said I was going to egg you on.
Before we get into the serious stuff,
yes.
I do want to let you know that your show has amazing pool. I had no idea how big a deal your show was until this past weekend.
We got to hear this story.
Explain.
I am doing a back to school drive. It's not from my elementary school, but I grew up in that area on the south side of Tallahassee. And, I was getting all kind of love. You got to go home every night. I was getting all kind of love for doing it. And it's been on, and people recognize me for whatever. But I go to this restaurant called Barnaby's. If you're ever in Tallahassee, go to Barnaby's. It's actually pretty good food. Random food, but good food. Like, I don't know why they're good at spaghetti, pizza, cheeseburgers, and wings. Like, anyways, but that's what they're good at. The chef, one of the guys in the back, he's looking at me, and he's just like, "You look familiar, man." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool." I mean, I played at Florida State. You do stuff with Florida State, right? And I'm like, I cover, I play. You on that YouTube show, ain't you? YouTube show. You mean Mark Rogers? Yeah, I watch Mark Rogers all the time. And then he tapped the other chef. See, I told you he was on that Mark Rogers show he watched. And I was like, dang. Shout out. So I don't know if that person's watching, but shout out to Barnaby's on Appalachian Parkway. They show they love Mark Rogers TV, and they show him hella love.
Between Barnaby's and Tallahassee, the Comcast store in Lauderhill, Florida, you, Mark, are expanding all over the Sunshine State.
We're getting there. Thanks to you guys.
I'm thinking business right here off the top of my head. What are we doing? We need to go talk to the chefs and say, hey, I mean, they got a connection with the owners there. We need to start getting a sponsorship going. All these other podcasts are getting Guthrie's, and all these other kind of places are getting beers and bars and all this kind of stuff. And we're bringing in.
No, you don't want Guthrie's. Sober Guthrie's, no, you don't want that.
Well, not sober.
You don't want
never sober.
I never remember eating
on this. We're bringing in enough numbers for sponsors. We can do that.
We can get on it.
Barnaby's, that's $3,000 right there. Barnaby's $3,000 for $3,000. Actually, excuse me, got to up it. I forgot it's $4,000 right there. It's $4,000 right there, Barnaby's.
James, you got side hustles going on over here. What the hell's going on? I
mean, $4,000, $1,000 a month for an hour.
You just
4 hours a week. That's a lot of money.
You just shouted out trying to get some free Barnaby's here.
No, Barnaby's gonna pay for that. Like, that's the first one's free.
Okay, good.
You're gonna get an invoice for 4 racks after that, or however, whatever we'll work it out, Mark. We'll work the number out. I don't know if that's too low, if it needs to get higher, but you got to get in the door somehow.
Let's do that. All right. We're going to move on to a little football talk, but I appreciate that little nugget, James. I caught that on Twitter. So, Logan, man, I got to say, the work that you put in on Twitter, I don't know if this is a yearly basis, but of course, we weren't together for the entirety of football season last year. Yeah, we were leading into football season. That's right, but I wasn't catching the Twitter feed. But man, you've been in practice. You've been uploading some good stuff, man. I've been locked in on that.
The media won't allow anybody there to take videos, but they will allow you to download the videos, and also as long as you're giving credit. Trust me, I've been in trouble before without giving credit and whatnot. But they're allowing outlets they're allowing them to post it on social media and stuff. But I just know right away, fans want to see Brian Robinson or Tamarion Terry, and I mean Terry looks good.
Love seeing
but they want to see. It's all about visuals, man. It's all about visuals, and definitely now, Jason's so pissed that practices are still going on. But seeing some of these cats out there, which we'll talk about in a few, seeing these cats out there and guys that are coming back from injuries and playing. I'm just excited, and I'm happy for guys. They're around my age too, and I'm just excited to see them go out there and perform like Keyshawn Helton out there rocking and rolling, Kando out there. I'm just stoked for him.
You got me, Logan. I'm so mad that my alma mater is playing football. You caught me, Logan. You hit the nail right on the head there. Are you drunk already, or you just had a couple? What's going on here?
I've told myself to stop drinking during these shows and during the podcast because it doesn't really help me that much. I've seen that I talk a lot more smarter without drinking. So
I'm sorry. Oh, what?
I talk a little bit more smarter.
Oh my God. Child's high school class of 2016 right there, ladies and gentlemen.
Redbeard, hold up now, Mark. I don't know. Redbeard just dropped a fatty.
I'm just catching this. So as I prepped you for this, Jason, before we started to hit record, my attention might be a little diverted. So you just fill in and just take off with it. Set these two up. But Redbeard, we'll get to your contribution here in a second. We'll get that posted, get you recognized. Always appreciated. 53 on the line already. I mentioned to these guys, I talked some Big Ten cancellation, Pac-12 as well, and got on the line as soon as that was determined and announced. And we had over 300 on the line. I think we would have gone north of 400 at the point that we were needing to get off the line. So I asked all those people, hey, if you love college football talk, we not just deal with Florida State, but man, with everything going on across the landscape, we talk college football, and we got all fan bases repped here in the live chat. So hopefully we'll pull some people over for Florida State Live every Tuesday night, 7 o'clock Eastern time.
So are we still talking about practice?
So what
Let's talk about practice. What else did you see out there, Logan?
We're talking about practice?
Who's looking good to you? Yeah.
Not a game?
We're not Allen Iverson fans here.
We're talking about practice. Yeah.
Jason's ready to start off with the depressing news. I say we start off with just a little stuff that we've seen that's going on. Just analyzing 5-second clips and whatnot. But looking at Keyshawn Helton.
You're not gonna be like Staples and give us a full breakdown of his quarterback progression.
I'm not. He's got the smarts for that. All I know is the little things, James. All I know is just the tiny little baby things. Releases faster, maybe a little bit more focus on his feet, even though he doesn't have any pass rushers on him or no pads on him. But Blackman, it seemed like he was pretty solid. The Mike Norvell talked pretty highly about him, and along with Travis. But those are your most experienced guys. Obviously, you got two newcomers who didn't have a spring, really. So, I mean, what else are you supposed to say? I mean, so that's just a quarterback situation. I think I think the big one is Tamarion Terry still looking fast. I mean, I think that was against Bolden, I believe, in that clip. And Bolden's pretty quick, too. I think he did a little bit of kick return last year, if I'm correct. Maybe not, or a punt return. I don't know. But he said bye-bye to Bolden, and he definitely weighs quite a bit more than him. So it's a good sign to see Terry. A lot of people are worried that he gained too much pounds. Was he going to be able to keep his quickness? And doesn't seem like much has changed. Didn't have full pads on yet, but it seems like he's still got that speed. But anything highlight for you guys?
The question I have for both of you, and Logan, you've seen what's going on in practice, but James, get your opinion as well on this. Obviously, the news is that Florida State has two players who've opted out. I believe it's Jamarcus Chapman and Dennis Briggs. They both decided to opt out. So, Logan, my question for you is, what have you seen from the other guys at the defensive line? Who do you think guys are going to kind of step up? Some of maybe the guys who transferred in and whatnot. And my question for you, James, is how do you think that will affect overall that unit with those two guys stepping away for the season? So we'll start with Logan, then go James.
I think James is going to talk about him too, but Fabian Lovett, I saw James giving him some love. I think Lovett is, you're glad that you did your due diligence and you packed in a good depth right there coming into the season at defensive tackle, and that's why you have Lovett. I mean, he's not just going to be a depth guy; he's going to be a guy that's going to make plays and get in there and compete with other cats. And so you got to start figuring out who's going to be that build, who's going to go into that second rotation. And there's a lot of young talent there. You wish you probably had a little bit more, but Lovett's going to take a lot of that. And we got to see just a little spice, little bit of Lovett and Odell working on some stuff there. But Lovett looks good. He's a big cat, and I think he's going to play a huge role in this defensive line in and out of plays. And I think that in the tandem with, you got Robert Cooper there, but I think with Marvin Wilson, next to Marvin Wilson, and also you can most certainly throw in Durden. That's a pretty significant defensive line. And my eyes are still a little worried about the defensive end and inconsistency there, but I think things will be fine.
James, before we do Logan Fresh 35.
Yeah, getting started early tonight.
I hate putting this up on here because that makes me so it's so awkward. You never want to be that front.
We'll keep it moving.
You're not sexy, but you're not sexy.
I've got you, Redbeard.
James,
I don't want my top analyst down here.
Right, James.
Broke down the FSU offense and defense to be uncomfortable on the show here.
James, what are your thoughts, obviously, with Briggs and Chapman stepping away? What do you think? The thought process.
Briggs had congratulations to Briggs. He has a baby, and he made a decision. He has a decision what's best for him. The one thing that seems like our scholarships don't cover our children watching their condoms, because we've got probably the most brand new babies of any team. Like everybody, Pope got a kid, DJ got a kid, Terry got a kid. I think everybody's got a new one, but Briggs did what he felt was best for him and his family. So, Chapman as well. But I from what Logan was saying with Lockett, and really the surprise. I can't think of his name. Is Jackson, the kid from Louisville who just came in, number 48. I got a chance to watch. Somebody shared a little bit of some film with me, and I'm just watching the explosiveness off the line and the way he uses his hands and the violence with that. Coming from a defensive end position, transferring to a 3 technique. Really, as Logan says, now you have some tandems that you can really throw out there on the interior that make you kind of give you a little confidence, especially as much as people have given Odell a hard time for how he's not recruited on the trail. When you think about what these guys are, redshirt freshmen or redshirt sophomores, these guys still have 2 or 3 more seasons in them. So you can miss on a 20 kid or a 2021 kid as long as you make sure these guys are developing properly, staying and doing what they need to do in recruiting for 2022, especially if you can get Big Cooper to stay. That'd be a big thing, especially as we look toward the potential of having a college football season, at least in the ACC and the SEC. Offensively, though, like you said, Tamron Terry, Brian Robinson, Warren Thompson. They showed some clips today of his ability to make acrobatic catches. There's some young talent. And I guess the big theme is there's a lot of young talent across the board. Will the quarterbacks be it? But what I was looking at with those film that FSU released was the timing just doesn't seem to be there. Like Brian Robinson had to make a good catch after he had beat a DB. Like it should have been in front. If it's in front of him when he's catching it, that's highlight all day. Tamron Terry's was good. Keyshawn Helton had one that you got to throw as soon as the break happens. So those are some things that can continue to work on as they get confident. And you can understand why it's not there with the with COVID happening. You can only do so much. Where I'm terrified right now, and I'm usually not terrified because I don't know if they're just bad or if they're stupid or if it's a combination of both. It's our offensive line. Just the technique is still lacking, and I can only go by what I've seen. It's just simple things like inside zone steps. Like you should not be at this juncture. You should know an inside zone. You literally step 45-degree punch, a 45-degree step with whichever direction you're going. Trail the other leg trails, tag team or scoop up to the next level. And these guys can't do those things. And it doesn't matter. They've had 4 offensive line coaches. I get it, but there's only so many ways you can teach the scheme. I mean, at some point it has to be on the inside. Still lunging. So that's the one reason. Like, so I got excited on Twitter, Logan, and I was, but I don't know if I'm excited because what I saw caused it to happen, or if they're just not any good. And then going back and looking at Rousseau's film, who was an amazing defensive end who opted out for the University of Miami, I feel bad for him because nobody can use the FSU film. It was just too easy. It looked like he was stealing. There was literally no, and this is no disrespect to him because he's great. He has better film against people who are trying. He legit just ran by the offensive guard one play. Like, there was no move. There was nothing. He just ran around him. It just
James,
looks bad.
James, let me ask you a question real quick, and then Logan, I have a question for you. But do you attribute that at all to the fact that this team did not have a spring football, and this was their first time being out there?
The exact same.
So you continuing problems.
It looks like that's what I'm saying. Like, even before the spring, I was watching film and like I was watching stuff with Coach Norvell, trying to understand Memphis, and I was just watching some of our stuff, and I made this comment. Like, that was the first time I made it. I was like, I don't know if they're bad or just stupid. From a football sense, I'm sure they're all scholars, like whatever. But football dumb. Like, don't have football smarts. And because a lot of this stuff should be like, you learn this stuff in Pop Warner. Like, you learn this stuff like you I don't know what it's kind of like if you watch Space Jam, like these guys, like their talent was taken by the Monstars. Like, they look the part, but it's just they can't do football. So again, hopefully Coach Atkins continues to like just ram it down their throat. I would love to be a fly on the wall with him coaching them up because it has to be degrading. Like, it can't be loving them up, which is why when you see a lot of fans say they're afraid or they're not happy with the recruiting, this is the reason why, because they don't have the bodies to be able to come up, and some of the kids that they're recruiting just aren't ready to go.
Logan, quick question for you, and obviously James alluded to it real quick. Gregory Rousseau from the University of Miami, their stud defensive lineman, he decided that he was going to sit out the 2020 season, gave a lot of interviews with the media down here. His parents are involved. They work on the front line, so he wanted to, it was the safety precaution, and we wish him the best of luck. He's going to get drafted to the NFL. We know that. And Marvin Wilson talked about why he didn't opt out. I think Tamarian Terry gave some comments about why he didn't opt out. Are you surprised at all that Florida State only had two guys opt out? Did you expect to see anyone else, or do you think that was just the normal? Was that what you were expecting?
I wasn't expecting anybody. I had no predictions on anyone. I do think, though, like James addressed, talking about whenever you're having a child, a very young child too, you got to take responsibilities. I understood Chapman's too and his reasons for that from what I heard from my source, and it makes total sense if anybody knows the background of his family and what he's going through and what he is doing currently for his family. And the whole Briggs situation, obviously we just talked about his baby. So it's not, I never, expected much of these guys, but could there be more? Most certainly there could be a possibility. I think a lot of players do indeed really want to play, but they're also looking out for their safety. I think a lot of players too are making sure what the athletic administration is saying publicly to people is they're on the right page too, because I think there was a little bit of miscommunication. It was kind of hidden today, but I think there was a little bit of miscommunication between the AD, Coburn, and the players. They were kind of public on it. They didn't talk too much about it. I think it was handled internally, but they got to get on the right page in that front. I won't talk too much more about it, but could there be more? Yes, but I never had names ahead on picking these. Whenever I was contacted before with the Chapman thing, that made total sense, and wish them all the best along with Briggs too.
Hey, James, you haven't had to deal with a situation like these young men are facing right now, but you more accurately than the rest of us could put yourself back 17, 18 years ago, put yourself in this position. Are you buying the message that you're safer as a player within the football facility, playing a football season, than just, hey, we're canceling the football season. You're on campus, you're at your hometown, you're wherever, you're living life however you would otherwise.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Like, a lot of these, not all, but a lot of guys stayed in Tallahassee. Like, you're still on full scholarship. Like, you're a student. This is where a lot of the biggest thing that people forget, and this is where people tell on themselves, is a football player is nothing more. A football scholarship is nothing more than your maximum amount of grant and aid that is allowed at the university. So in theory, there are math students. Actually, not in theory. There are math students who get the presidential scholarship at Florida State, whose scholarship is worth similar to what the football player's scholarship is worth. They may not get the sweats, but they get a ton of money to go and be a student, and that's because they're exceptional at what they do. A regular student can't do it, but a regular student can't play football either. You have to be exceptional at what it is that you do. So why, because the season is canceled, do people just automatically assume you're going home? Like, you have a grant, you have financial aid that comes, unless they're employees, and we're just not saying that. So again, I say all that to say is they don't have to kick you out. And a lot of guys live off campus, and if you live off campus, you get paid. Your stipend reflects the fact that you live off campus, and when they can't feed you, your stipend reflects what they can't feed you. But that being said, they can do things to make it to where you have a pseudo bubble. So that's why when I hear people say you can't bubble these guys, and I just ask a simple question: why? I remember what camp was like. 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Your whole day is spoken for. The only thing you have a little bit of energy to do is what college students do in general. If your old lady comes over, and what these guys apparently do too much because they all got kids. I can't pick on them too hard, but I'm just saying, guys,
James, it's a family.
Pay $5 at Walmart. Is all I'm going to say. But you have a little bit. You have a little bit of energy to do that, but for the most part, 6 a.m. comes really quick. So you keep the camp mindset the entire season, and you'll be good. I was an advocate for making sure they didn't send guys home when the school was over. I felt that when they told them to come back in July, they should have told them you ain't seeing nobody in your family until January, and that should have been cut and dry, and that would have been completely understood. Where they're not, like what Logan kind of alluded to, and I'm not going to get too much into it either because these things tend to work themselves out, is that there has to be better communication on what's available to the student athlete or the student in general, what's available to them and how they're gonna administer it. So like what makes the NBA bubble successful is the fact that they're able to take regular testing. What's made the NFL successful up to this point is the fact that they tested everybody when they got there, tested 2 days later, and then there's regular testing. These are things that have to be there, and you can't knock a player for standing firm saying I'm not going to play until you can clearly, like I joked, talk to me like a fifth grader, until you can break it down to me on a fifth grade level, everything that I'm going to be able to do that you're going to do to keep me safe, and what my rights are. So Briggs opts out. Chapman opts out. Am I guaranteed? Not this year, because there's nothing they could do to you anyway this year. You've already signed your contract. Am I going to be on scholarship next year, or will I be punished? Will there be 85 scholarships allotted? And if so, even if there isn't anymore, am I still going to be on the roster because I chose that? And those are things that still aren't clear. And the frustration is with some of that is with players and with coaches, and there's been some button heads because when you have a lack of information, it hurts your communication. And when you have a lack of communication, that's when you see guys go to Twitter and do things that they probably should handle in house. But again, as with the Marv situation, if I find out in public, you're gonna find out in public too, because that probably could have been clearly communicated a little bit. Even though I know the press conference got announced today, because I think Marvell was supposed to see the reputables at 1:30, and then that ended up getting canceled.
You mean the dog and pony show in the indoor practice facility?
Listen, man, Ron DeSantis. He wants football. He's going for it. I'm not. He's not my enemy right now. I need football. So,
oh God, Jason, hey, I want to play. I want to see some football. I want to see Steven Diggs Jr. lay the F out of somebody. I'm sorry. I don't know if anybody else in the chat wants to see it, but if it's safe and everything's safe, I want to see.
Well, first of all, I'm going to rip on Logan.
I want to see him lay the crap out of Sam Howell. I mean,
no, I need to rip on Logan. I need to rip on Logan for 1 second here because Logan does this thing. Okay, and first of all, we all love each other here. I love Logan. I think he's like a little brother to me, a drunk little brother, but I do appreciate him and his work he does. But there's a common misconception that because I have said things in the past like I think we're not going to play all the games, and I don't. I think if the ACC does play, I don't think we play all 11 games because I think we're going to get to a point in November where the numbers are going to go back up. That's just a fact. That's not me saying I want that to happen.
Well, it's not a fact. It has yet to happen. That's your projection.
I hope that I am wrong. I hope Florida State plays all 11 games. I sincerely 100% hope the ACC does play the games. It is just my opinion. It is just my worry and concern. And it's a concern that comes from family members who've gotten COVID, coworkers who've gotten COVID, close friends of the family who are in ICUs dealing with COVID. So it's not a notion that I want football to not happen. This constant notion that, Danny Cannell with his stupid ass tweet this week saying that making fun of media members saying, oh, you guys want football to not happen. That's BS. We all want football to happen. I want the football to happen. I want the ACC to have their schedule like normal. I want everything to go on as normal as possible. But it's also being a realist. It's having the fact of, are we going to have a full season? Probably not. That's just the way things are probably going to play out. Do I hope that I am wrong? God, yes. I'll be the first person to say, Logan was right. I was wrong. But don't sit here and come at me.
Then you'll do your push-up.
Don't come at me, bro.
Listen, if we go 3-0, if we go 3-0, I just 2-0 or beat Miami, go 3-0, then shut it down. I don't care. But let us get. We need some games because it's going to help recruiting. Right now, we got to get recruiting. It's not bad, but we got to get recruiting on a better track, in my opinion.
Guys, before we continue the conversation, hang on just a second, Jason. I want to just take note of this super chat contribution so I can move on in the live chat. Redbeard 40, phenomenal. Got to read this one off. Let's get this party started right. Hit the like button and show Mark Rogers some love. Go Noles. That seems to be a good segue into our first hit the like button push.
We're doing it right now? We're doing it right now, Logan?
It's right on time, 7:29. That's not a bad time right there to throw it in. We're rolling right now. Mark's channel is kind of blowing up in front of our eyes. I don't know if anybody else is seeing this, but he's just grabbing viewers left and right. But we just had someone comment say that they're FSU fan. They just found this on YouTube. They didn't even know it was on here. But welcome in. But hit that like button too, so then more Noles can watch this, just like that other person just came in and never saw the show before. Hit that like button right now. We're only at 44. And we have 113 people watching at 7:30. Jeez, it's popping off. Let's get this thing to like 80 likes before it's over. But 44, I feel like that's pretty low for what we can do.
I do.
With prime time.
I do want to agree with James real quick though about something. If the ACC just happens to want to cancel the schedule before, I don't know, the Clemson game, so that if we're 7-1 going into that game, they say, "Whoopsie, we're done." I wouldn't.
Elite lies when be told on my part. We was beating them. I was gonna beat Clemson.
Okay, we ain't beating Clemson either.
No, I'm saying if that happens, I'm telling some elite lies. You can't prove that it wouldn't have happened. All we can do is speculate.
Which is what we do every weekend.
What is this?
And let's actually also, while we're at it, let's give one person in the bottom left corner of your screen, Big Game James Coleman, number 36 in your hearts, number 1 in your prediction books, credit because he is the only person out of us last week who correctly predicted that Florida State will open the season with Georgia Tech. Let's give it up for James.
Yep. Push-ups for you, Jason. Push-ups for you.
Why do you want to see push-ups out of me so much? What is it?
They're coming once football season starts. Whenever that toe hits leather, that next show is going to be phenomenal. I can't wait.
That's just pure entertainment, Jason, to watch you do push-ups. It's going to be fun.
Come on. And the good thing about it too, Mark, is that we're starting to gain a lot more viewers too. So it's just more people to get to view Jason, probably never really seen him before. And they're going to wonder why all of us are here talking and he's going to be in the background doing push-ups the whole entire time.
I mean, I think Logan is just, I mean, like I said, I admitted I had a man crush on James after he scored that touchdown. For us to game. I think Logan's got a little man crush on me. I like you. I love you as a friend. I'm not in love with you. I still want to be friends with you, bro. But I just, don't come at me, bro.
I know we've been together for well over a year now, but
I caught one of these recent posts from Logan tracking the bench press mark. What are we at? 265?
So 275 last week. I haven't had somebody to spot me though, and I'm doing it off a frigging Smith machine. So it's kind of cheating, kind of a little bit, but I've seen a lot more progression. I'm trying to take James's record. Mainly, I got to start with my dad. My dad hit 315 whenever that was his max. Whenever he was, build and doing his thing. So I gotta at least beat my dad because I'm competitive, always competitive there. But now I gotta go after James next. But I don't really have those kind of those genetics. I'm a skinny white kid that should be playing baseball.
Yeah, that's me. Exactly. Yeah. If I hit 300 even, that could be your next bar.
Yeah,
actually, that was a long time ago. So we could have everybody. This could be a nice little contest. We could have everybody in the live chat give each one of us an over/under on how many push-ups we should be able to do.
Oh my! And we're gonna do them.
Oh, you're getting 50 from me, and then I quit. I'm just letting you know right now.
Straight 50 straight.
I do. Now I'm down to 100 every morning, but at one point I was doing 200 every morning.
Nice.
Damn.
Oh, man.
I do 50.
I better step it up here. I haven't touched a push-up in a while, so I don't know what I can do.
Yeah, I haven't done push-ups in a minute. My wrists are crap right now.
Oh yeah, my left elbow. That's what gives out on me.
Mark, this deliciousness does not come overnight. All right, son.
Wow.
Oh my gosh. And there goes the new viewers we have.
Yeah, James is about to pull up that one right there. But let's have that conversation real quick. Florida State, the schedule did come out. Florida State will open with Georgia Tech. Then they play Samford. Then they go to Miami, off week. And then it's kind of an interesting stretch. There are games at Notre Dame, North Carolina. At Notre Dame, North Carolina, then at Louisville before another bye week. And then finishing up with Pitt at NC State, Clemson at home, Virginia at home, and then the finale against Duke. So, thoughts, guys. James, we'll start with you. No, you know what? Logan, we're going to start with you since James just took a big fight. Logan, what are your thoughts on the schedule? What are your concerns? What do you think when you saw the schedule came out?
I think the start of the season can't get any better for Florida State under a new coach and staff. I think it's a solid way to start off the season. You get some good competition, some decent competition against Georgia Tech. They got a new system rolling through too and staff, so it's going to be fair fight in my opinion on that front. You also get a cool storyline with Jeff Sims coming in. I doubt I don't know. James had a close connection with Sims early on. But I don't know what his scenario is and playing and whatnot, but you still get Jeff Sims to come in and be in Doak for a game, which is cool the next upcoming season. And then you got Samford. So I think that's a good start for Florida State. And then obviously you got to compete with the state rival Miami. So I think it's a solid start. And I think Norvell should be happy about that. And, there was rumor talk about Notre Dame to start off the season. So you get some time to tune up. Look at some film after competing against Georgia Tech, an ACC opponent. Then you get a little bit more easier game. You might get to see a little bit of the younger QBs jump into the Samford game if it's not like 2018, Jason, where I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. That was under Willie Tech. I don't know. But maybe you'll see a little bit of those younger quarterbacks. Maybe a little Chuba Purdy, a little bit of Roadmaker, maybe a little bit of Jordan Travis jump in there. I think it's a solid. From my take on it, it's a solid start. The rest of it is, got to see what this team does.
It was almost as embarrassing as that Georgia Tech game in 2015. I wonder who was the head coach then. But James, question from you, real quick.
You mean the year they finished in the top 10?
Yeah, the year they lost.
You were talking about
the Tech team.
Okay.
I was so mad.
Oh yeah, you should be. James, question for you though. Obviously, the big game that got moved up was the Miami game. It was originally November 7th. It got moved up to September 26th. A lot of people thought that it got moved up because in case there are canceled games at the end of the season, that's why they try to move up that rivalry game as early as possible. What are your thoughts on that? And also, if Florida State does lose that game, if we do lose to Miami, do you worry about a possible that slide we've talked about in the past to Florida State, kind of that they lose that game and then ho-hum, here we go again, with games coming up after that of Notre Dame, North Carolina, and Louisville?
Not so much, because you have a bye before Notre Dame to get everything together, and it's a rivalry, but technically they're coming off of a better situation than you. I mean, they have a more established coaching staff. They've got a lot. They had a better recruiting the last couple of years, and you just have to see. But they've got an interesting slate of things that are happening with them. They've got everybody talks about UAB without understanding that UAB is back-to-back conference champions, and they're not a really bad team. And this isn't to disrespect them or anything. It's just UAB is playing really decent group of five football. So when we come to that, but that schedule, you open up with a true freshman quarterback because Jeff is probably more than likely going to start. No matter how well he plays, and if I'm looking at what Fuller has done, throwing different varieties and variations of stunts and blitzes, and he has better corners, right? He has more. Let me rephrase. He has more athletic secondary than what he had at Memphis. He has a more athletic team than what he had at Memphis. And even with what I was watching, run fits, guys doing what they're supposed to do. If this team, buys in and trusts, can get rid of and it's tough in this environment, can get rid of the not trusting each other, more so the coaches, you can see a really good, a big change. Much like when Memphis went to Ole Miss and punched them in the mouth. I guarantee Ole Miss wasn't expecting that. Ole Miss expected to win that game, but they went in and if they'd have played three-name Pilgrim, John Reese Palmer from the jump, they probably would have. But they did a really good job of containing them. Samford is what it is. That game out of anything has to be the statement game. If you're going to put people on notice, FSU hasn't had a game in a while where you just take a subpar opponent and you just bully them, and that would be a great opportunity. If we're playing the true freshmen in and they're getting a lot of minutes in the second half, then that means that the Norvell train is going in the right direction. But Miami still has a lot of question marks themselves. They've got a good offensive coordinator that actually runs what it is that their fans think they want to, outside of last year when somehow magically they were going to run the spread with the offensive coordinator who had never ran the spread before in his life. He was basically the reincarnation of Mark Richt. But now you actually do have a up-tempo spread concept offensive coordinator. The problem is your defense is bend don't break. So you'll find yourself in situations like what FSU found themselves with Tag in the first year, is how well do your guys handle it, or is he going to be a true tempo? See, if he's a true no-huddle, hurry-up offense, that hurts defenses. But if you're a tempo and you're just no-huddle just means you don't huddle. Like, you can use the entire play clock. So it's a difference. So, but the way Miami, Notre Dame, Clemson, where they're spaced out on the schedule, Pitt having the best defensive lineman in the conference sit down. Rousseau, one of the best defensive ends in the conference, sitting out. North Carolina, even though they weren't really players, but there's three guys with depth sitting out. Like, a lot of stuff is like lining up for you. I won't say Tyler. The only team that does it, Tyler Davis is going to redshirt, but that really don't affect Clemson because they've got tons of talent. So, but I think if Mike can't get 7 to 8 wins this season, then it's unfortunate because you legit just got a very expensive Willie Taggart, because it doesn't get any easier. Like the schedule, Notre Dame again next year, LSU the year after that. Florida gets put back on your schedule. And if you can't beat Miami right now, if you can beat Miami, you could derail what they're doing recruiting-wise, because it's shown to happen. And what Miami has traditionally done the last 15 years is the FSU game is this season for them. So, like, after they play that game, everything goes downhill. So if they're able to get that done, man, then Mike should be in a good position. He just he needs the season. We got to see him coach, because they ain't believing in recruiting. But they can. But from what I understand about coaching, that he should be fine.
We talked about it a little bit on Saturday when I was on with Cam Underwood on the show. Thanks a lot, 305 amp. It wasn't Logan, it was me, but okay.
Well, see, I was going to point out that little nuance to that. That's the only reason I kept that up there. I wanted to point that out.
You kept it on there, Mark. We kept it on there for a reason. But thank you for watching anyway, 305 amp. But one of the things we talked about was why that game is so important because.
Sorry, my bad.
If you look at both teams, Florida State and Miami should be 2-0 going into that game because Miami plays UAB and they play at Louisville. Arguably, they should beat both those teams just like we should beat Georgia Tech and Samford. The thing is, we both have the bye week after that game, and then we go to Notre Dame, they go to Clemson. So there's a potential that the loser of that game could lose 2 straight, depending on, because obviously they're probably going to lose to Clemson. We're probably going to lose to Notre Dame. Let's just be honest at this point right now. So it's a question of who wants to be 3-1, who wants to be 2-2. And that bye week to me, it doesn't matter until I need to see how Florida State bounces back from a loss. Because since 2015, we had not bounced back from losses well. The only time you could argue that we did bounce back from a loss well was after the Clemson loss in 2016. When we went on to win the 5 straight games, including beating Florida and beating Michigan in the Orange Bowl. But after that, we genuinely do not do well after losses over the last 5 seasons. So that's what I need to see. If we do lose a 4th straight game to Miami in the series, can we bounce back after the bye week and at least play well and maybe upset Notre Dame on the road in South Bend? That's what I need to see from the Noles at this point. And I'm with James. We put a lot on Willie Taggart in 2018 when he came in to replace Jimbo Fisher. I'll admit it, I was guilty of it, just like a lot of other people who cover the Noles. We need to see Mike Norvell prove it on the field. He needs to have at least, to me, 7-4, 8-3, like James said. If he finishes anything less than that, it's an utter disappointment.
I want to shout out too. Amp was also, I guess it says, Florida State offensive tackle freshman Lloyd Willis. His dad is in here watching us, so thanks for coming in and hanging out with us.
From the mean streets of Killian High School in Miami, Florida.
So even though Jason wasn't going to ask me, I've got my opinion on the ACC schedule. I even went off for like 15 or 20 minutes and posted my analysis of the ACC schedule. This is where I can contribute as well here. Yeah.
Hold on a second, Mark. Hey, Mark, what are your thoughts on the ACC schedule?
I'm glad you asked, Jason. I know that was your top priority tonight to get my analysis of the ACC schedule, which is that I believe that the Noles have the toughest conference schedule of anybody. And this is the reason why. There's only 2 teams in the conference that play: Clemson, Notre Dame, Miami, and North Carolina, who I consider to be the 4 best teams in the conference. It's Wake Forest and it's Florida State. And Florida State doesn't get that balance of picking up Syracuse or Boston College, either one of them. And those 2 may turn out to be the 2 worst teams in the conference this year. So I think FSU's got a difficult run here.
I think Florida State has to play it in the pods. To me, there's 3 pods: the 3-game pod bye week, 3-game pod bye week, and the 5 games to end the season. If you can start off the season 3-0, beat Georgia Tech, beat Samford, come down here and beat Miami, that's the best start Florida State can have, and that's their first pod, 3-0. Second pod, Notre Dame, North Carolina, Louisville. If you go 2-1 in that pod, you're 5-1 entering the last 5 games of the season. And then from there, let's say you lose to Clemson, and let's say we lose to Virginia. We beat Pitt, beat NC State, beat Duke. That's 8-3. If you tell me right now, if God came down and said, I'll give you an 8-3 season for Florida State, I would take that all day, every day. The problem is Florida State cannot do what Florida State has done in the past. They cannot lose to Clemson and like, for example, last season when you lose to Clemson, you let sorrow, and then you lose to a Wake Forest team you have no business losing to. That's what Florida State cannot do. If Florida State does lose to Miami, they can't let it go into the Notre Dame game. If Florida State loses to Notre Dame, they can't let it go into the North Carolina game. That's the only way Florida State can have a successful season.
I think this is the first time that Mark Thibodeau has jumped into the live chat and not called me the enemy in caps. So, but he gives a lot of respect. So I get that. So I appreciate it, Mark. Big Michigan fan joining the chat right there. I got my vote from Kyle. He's moved me down from vice presidential candidate to NCAA commissioner.
Now, here's my question for you, Mark. And let's have a quick moment of silence for the fact that Mark's alma mater, Kent State, and his rooting team, Ohio State, are not playing this season. Quick moment of silence.
Unless Ohio State becomes a renegade like Scott Frost in Nebraska and just says, we're going to figure out a schedule and play somebody.
We're going to talk about that in a moment because I have how that's going to actually help Florida State in the ACC. There's a whole – I got 6 degrees of separation. So here's my question for you. Will you officially, in 2020, come over to the Florida State bandwagon?
And do
Bandwagon.
And root for the Noles. Root for the Noles all season on the way to the national championship here at Hard Rock Stadium, 10 minutes away from my house.
Jason, how can that happen since you're not pulling for them to play? I'm playing with you. I'm playing with you. I'm playing with you. Don't come after me. I'm playing with you.
Don't curse them out.
I hate to admit this because this would fly in the face of me having a heart of stone and just saying I'm a cold hard assassin of a college football host and analysis. But talking to you guys every week, talking to you guys on Twitter, having all these good Florida State people, build the channel, support the channel. It's tough not to kind of lean and keep leaning in your direction, I must admit.
Now,
Miami.
Are you also going to apologize?
That hasn't had the effect.
Are you also going to apologize to Deion Sanders for your Twitter episode from this weekend that I corrected?
Misidentifying the Southern Miss win. So I knew that Southern Miss upset Florida State.
No, hold on.
I misidentified which game it was.
Hold on. No.
Correct?
Somebody here, one of the 4 of us tried to troll Deion Sanders and the Florida State football program. They showed the interception where he intercepted Brett Favre. I believe it was.
I didn't do that. I don't do that.
In Tallahassee, and he goes, "Funny, who won that game?"
Oh yeah.
No,
I did.
Yeah,
not my statement. I didn't. There was no ha.
Deion was in the NFL at that point when Florida State lost.
1989. Correct. You corrected me. I knew that Southern Miss had beaten Florida State, and it was a year earlier.
I remember my father cursing at that whole time inside the Gator Bowl going, what the hell are we doing?
Anytime you see any kind of video or GIF on Twitter, never bring it back to me. I don't put that much effort into Twitter. I have never posted a GIF or a video or anything on Twitter. If it takes me more than 6 seconds to do, I'm not doing it on Twitter.
Wasn't it an ESPN video? Isn't that it?
Could have been.
It was.
I don't know.
Shout out to Deion opting out of the NFL Network.
He opted out of that contract.
Opted out of his contract after he berated all young athletes for that the show will go on without you. We needed that, OG.
Yeah, about that.
Deion about one person.
So now here's a question I have. Here's the question I have for all 3 of you. If Nebraska does intend to try to play games outside of the Big Ten, like they say they're going to explore the option of playing games outside of the Big Ten this season, whether that means joining the Big 12 if the Big 12 plays an independent, something like that. How quickly do you, if you're the Big Ten, kick them out? Because I kick them out in a heartbeat. If they just say, hey, we're going to go play in the Big 12 this season, okay, go. Bye.
Let them mess their money up. They'll mess their money up. Nebraska's a name. Nebraska might be trash, but they have their name brand. They bring that presence. They bring that Midwest market. Anybody who can sell out when you're not winning any games, like that's a fan base that's not just talking about being rabid. That's about being they are rabid. I mean, they give extensions to people who we fire. Like we fire for, but hey, that's just the standards. They're just happy to play football, I guess, in Lincoln. I don't really know. I can't point Nebraska out on the map. I saw it one time when I was doing NCAA, and I used to tell my mom I wanted to play for Nebraska. And then when they put that map feature on the video game when you started recruiting, and I counted how many states and how far it was away from Florida, and then I played with them and I saw how it could snow in October or something like that. I'm like, I'm okay on that. I'm straight. I like the Sunshine State. I pass it.
Now, my comeback to that would be if they were to kick them out, it's a conference that has Ohio State, it has Michigan, it has Penn State, it has all that money, it has all that football power in there right now. That's number one. And number two, there's an option that would help us out big time. Can I get a drum roll, Logan?
You or me?
Thank you for that drum roll. Notre Dame. Notre Dame goes to the Big Ten. Goes to the Big Ten West. They don't have to play Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State every single year. They go to the Big Ten West. The ACC, they're not our problem anymore. By them going to the Big Ten, they would have to join the Big Ten's TV contract, which puts NBC up for grabs. The ACC comes in, swipes in, gets NBC's deal to show college football. And as an NBC Universal employee, it's a win-win for everyone.
I may
have thought of this a little bit.
That is a conspiracy theory right there for you. But here's why it wouldn't work, because it wouldn't just be losing Nebraska. They'd be losing Iowa too, who the Big 12 would take back with open arms. And all it would do is just make the Big 12 contract jump. The Nebraska deal, what we as ACC fans are starting to realize, isn't really as coveted or great as we thought it was. It's like $15 million. I thought it was more than that. But it really, I mean, it's great when it's just your program. But, like, Nebraska joining the Big Ten only helps them. It doesn't help the Big Ten. Now, unless you came up with a big reconstruction for NBC, but NBC would probably take another shot at getting some extra NFL games. Right now, the biggest thing is a 1-year deal. SEC is already talking with the networks, apparently, about renegotiating deals, putting more games on TV, possibly. But you may hear, and they have more leverage to do it because their start date is until September 24th. But imagine Nebraska's just sitting out there as a free agent for 1 year. You've already blown it up. Hey, Nebraska, come on over here. I know Arkansas would love it, so they can get a new schedule that's maybe not as bad. But those are the things that I think what we're seeing right now is that the Pac-12 and the Big Ten are the only ones who don't play. And it's just the three where a majority of people really care about about football. I think you'll see the Pangea effect. I think you'll start seeing everything will emerge here. Ohio State. This is the first time you've seen coaches go against presidents. Like, you're going against your boss. Like, so Ohio State, like, people can say they've heard rumors about Ohio State breaking off and joining the Big 12, but that's hard to justify. I'm not saying it's not happening. It's hard to justify when the president legit voted to push it to the spring. So your presidents don't want it, but your coaches do, and your coaches are the highest paid employee. So it's kind of already this rift. So, and you already saw the first domino fall against Ohio State, having a kid decommit. And now that kid's probably is slated to go Texas A&M, Bama, or University of Florida. So what happens when people can now start poaching your recruiting classes because you're not playing football and there's no guarantee that you'll play it in the spring? And if you have to play in the spring and you have to play again in the fall, this sport was not designed to play year round. I'd rather have COVID than bang on my body like that.
Let's put all the cards out there on the table. There will be no spring football. There's no way you can play spring football from January till March or April and then turn around and play fall football. So
just something to say.
Jason, just to extend on your point, think about the calendar logistics here. Let's say we play spring football, or we play a spring football season starting the first week of February, and we play a reduced season of 10 games in 12 weeks, just like they were proposing for this fall. That's a full 3 months. So they're going to be playing February, March, and April. So we're going to conclude the regular season at the end of April. We're going to have to play conference championship games, even if we abolish all the bowl games except for the college football playoff. By the time you play 2 games that are spaced out, you're playing to mid-May, to James' point, and then you're going to turn around and start playing in August, and then go the front side of the season. If you're going to step on the field for a game the first week of February, you're hitting spring camp for the season around Christmas time.
Wait,
how does eligibility work? Your guys who early enroll are students, so they should be eligible for your spring season.
Absolutely, and then on the back end of the career, we've got about 255 players get drafted every year, and then there's about 450 to 500 that have a reasonable hope of getting drafted that want to prepare for the NFL draft. They're not going to play.
And then NFL's still on schedule with their stuff going on right now.
Yeah, they're not going to change.
They're playing their season, and they got the NFL combine still set. There's just no time for spring.
Mark also just hit the nail on the head right there, where he said you'd have the games in the spring, you'd have the conference championships, he said, and then you bring in the playoff. So what if you're a team like Alabama in the SEC and they do play in the fall, Do they have to wait around until April for the college football playoff? Are you going to have two champions? That's what. Let's be honest. Let's put all the cards out on the table. This move was done for not what's happening in 2020, but it's what's happening in 2040 and 2045 and 2050. Because nobody, Ohio State, Penn State, the Big Ten, the Pac-12, they don't want to get sued later. Because right now we don't know medically what COVID can do to you in 20 years, 25 years. That's the unknown right now. And that's why they said, can we be held liable for something that happens if they want to come back and sue us in 25 years? And the lawyers for the conference and for the schools said, we can't guarantee you that we won't get sued. And that is a financial disaster for these schools. That to these schools is more of a financial disaster than not having 6 or 7 home games this fall. That's the bottom line. That's why these games got canceled. It was financial reasons, and it was CYA.
It's financial reasons, and COVID is, you can sprinkle a little bit on that. But here's the real reason. And the SEC, the ACC, again, it just means more in the South. They also know where their bread is buttered. When you look at who are most of the highest paid coaches, most of them probably come from the Southeastern Conference, where you got to pay a coach $5 million or close to it to just even compete. But with the Pac-12, with those guys, with 1,000 athletes coming in, and actually, Dabo don't like the word, so he wants to call it whatever you want. They're unionizing. These guys, the worst thing when they did this, and they said we can't cancel football, it will destroy our athletic department. The first time they did that, you literally just told the players, you need me, and you put specific numbers on it. These kids are realizing their power. These kids, for the first time ever, well, maybe since they first started, are getting names removed, changes, wholesale changes. Then Pac-12 kids said, okay, well, and now the NIL is coming. That's why Mark Emmert won't make a decision on it, a uniform decision. And the presidents really are making the play to kind of get to the only play they have right now to really reign in control is to snatch it away. And that's all. That's really what it comes down to. It's more of a power play. Sued or not, you're going to have students go on campus. None of them have canceled school yet. Student athlete is what it's called. You're trying to protect the student, then protect all students. Forget football for a second, but you're not making any of those decisions. You're going to cancel football, but like we already said, Wisconsin not canceling practice. They still doing everything. They still implementing the 20-hour rule. The only thing you're doing is trying to take away the season because all right, what you're threatening, the way to neutralize a threat is to just take the threat away. So all right, you can't cancel with that. The only problem is once you do that, you've really opened the floodgates. So that's why it's the last possible option for the ACC, the SEC, because if those guys really came out and said we're not going to play football, it's a guy right now who just bought an entire league for pennies, praying that the SEC, the ACC, and the Big 12 say no too, because it's enough time to start a season in November, December. The weather is good enough in the South to be able to put 6 to 8 teams together in a bubble and put some NFL film together, and that's the XFL with the Rock. If the college football season doesn't get played, the NFL, you could probably petition the NFL to be able to say, I'm a sophomore, but I want to play. I feel like I'm ready to play. And they probably will hear you because right now the NCAA is a cluster F. It is a combination of greed and people not willing to be able to be leaders and make decisions. And it just it's a shame because now what we're seeing is, in my opinion, we're not the end of college athletics. We're seeing the beginning of the end of the NCAA, though.
And, absolutely. James hit the nail on the head. This has exposed the NCAA to be the cluster that it absolutely is. And I support the players getting their money. In fact, I just want to let you know, James, I will be sending you a check for $2.50. That's your percentage. Well, that's your percentage for the 4 NCAA football video games that I bought over my time in college, and that was your time playing there. So I owe you $2.50. So I got you. Do you want it quarters, dimes, nickels? How do you want it?
Used to the pennies. I want 250 pennies.
You want 250? I got you. 250 pennies will be coming your way. Over.
Last thing I'll say on it too, because I know it's
Over
8 o'clock, but I also worry about, I feel bad about the coaches more. I mean, and the players, of course, but I feel really bad for the coaches because they've set up this system. Obviously, it's helped a lot by their administration and people they're helping solidify and get the protocols done and whatnot. But, they've set up a system. They've been watching film. They've been expecting to play a game. At least I'm talking about, Ohio State and those guys that just got, learned about it and whatnot, and it became official today. But, we were, like James and Jason were talking about earlier, you got players that you were recruiting for 3 to 4 to 5 years even, and they could be gone just like that because if they want to go put game film on, if they want to come down to the ACC and play defensive line and wreck on somebody and put that on game film before the NFL Combine and just get it out to scouts and whatnot, I mean, it's a really crappy situation, and no wonder coaches. I think right now, all tonight, we haven't heard from much of them. I haven't been on Twitter for an hour, but I'm sure they're prepping and getting all kinds of statements out. I'm surprised that players have been so nice about it. I'm really surprised that it's been not so nasty yet, because I have a feeling once these coaches start laying down, it's going to get ugly. Definitely when they lose a player that they recruited for 3 or more years and had to compete with an in-state rival, and they lose that guy, it's going to get really, really, really ugly. It's going to get ugly.
And let's just be honest with ourselves here. Anything can happen at this point. We're talking about the Big Ten canceled their season today. 6 days ago, they released their schedule. Everything is awesome. Everything is fine. Things can change at a moment's notice. The Big 12 could decide tomorrow they are going to cancel their season. They could decide they're going to play. And let's be honest, the ACC and the SEC are going to be trying to recruit the Big 12 hard over the next 24 hours to play, because there needs to be at least 3 power conferences. Because right now, out of the 130 teams in the FBS, Division I college football, out of 130, 53 will not be playing football this upcoming season, between being in conferences or the independents like UMass, UConn, and then Old Dominion and Conference USA who said they're not going to play. If you get 12 more teams, which would be the 11 teams in the Big 12 plus let's get another independent team or something, I don't see how you can have a college football season with half the teams sitting out.
So you're saying a college football season in which we can have a legitimate champion. Let's say all the conferences opt out except the SEC. I'll just bring up the SEC. You don't think that maybe if the SEC clearly thought, okay, we've taken care of the litigation issue, we've taken care of the safety issue as much as we could possibly do it. Yes, we can't play a national championship game because there's nobody to play. But if the SEC could say, we're going to be college football for a full year, we are going to be everything to anyone who wants college football, that they may just play a schedule and say, college football is SEC football this year. And just say, we're gonna extend our dominance over the rest of the country because we're showing that. And man, that branding for that full year of college football to meet the entertainment starvation of the college football fan.
Wow. Yeah, and I was talking about it earlier. They're going to make whoever sticks in and stays with the SEC TV ratings. You want recruiting, you want money, you want your brand back out there, you want your logo everywhere. They're going to get paid. It's just like that video of that coach inside the locker room. Give me my money. That's what exactly. That's probably what the ACC is doing. ACC would love it. Their ACC loved March Madness. Florida State had the potential to be the Final Four team. The ACC lost a good amount of money without March Madness. They got to get into some football. They got to get something going. And Clemson usually is a team that will get into the playoffs too. That's why they're going to try to stick with the SEC and get this thing going. But I got to get out of here because we have an interview in about 25 minutes with a basketball guy.
Fine, leave us.
Logan Robinson right here, Knoll Game Day, does a fantastic job. Join him over there. I'll make one more statement about the Big Ten here, and it's that basically for me,
James. See you, Jason.
For me, the Big Ten, it's going to be interesting to see if they're on the right side of history or the wrong side of history, and only time will tell. And they've got to make the tough decisions, these conference commissioners now, not knowing what's going to happen a year from now, 5 years from now. But if the Big Ten, and a lot of college football fans would miss on this, that we would assume that the SEC makes the most money, and it's very close between the SEC and the Big Ten. But the most recent college football season, the average Big Ten team made over $55 million in revenue. They were the highest grossing conference. Well, if they're on the wrong side of this decision, who knows? Like you guys are talking about, the population shift is going south anyway. For the Big Ten to maintain the power that it's had over the last 5 to 10 to 15 years in college football, with everybody moving west and moving south, has been pretty phenomenal for the Big Ten to generate enough money to keep up with the SEC to a certain extent, not necessarily on the field, but in terms of TV ratings and butts in the seats. This may be the demise of the Big Ten.
It's also interesting, the decision that they made based upon what the facilities they have. You've got like schools like Northwestern, I believe it's like $220 million indoor football only facility.
Just finished it. Minnesota too.
Illinois is they're developing theirs. So you have all of the. Here's the reason why: it's cold as hell up there for like 6 months out of the year. So you've got everything designed to keep people in one place and to bubble again, essentially bubble it, and it'd be a situation where you definitely put yourself behind for a couple of years. But I do understand Michigan's president has been adamant since shutdown the first time that if you can't have students safely, you won't have football. So I guess they're on the air of academics and keeping everything where it is. And I guess that's one of the benefits of having schools that have been around for so long. But I know a lot of these schools in the South, FSU in particular, FSU was built around football. When they told us when I came in there was in 1978, when they went to go get Bowden, basically, there was a concentrated effort to build the university around the stadium. So, and if you go back and you look, as the stadium grows and builds and develops, so does the outward expansion of FSU. FSU is sprawled all the way to where it literally bumps up onto FAMU's campus. It sprawls into neighborhoods, into other places. So to not have football means or not have a strong athletic program. It means you actually halt the academic money or the academic growth of a lot of universities in the South. And a lot of these schools have become really, really good academic institutions because of that. The University of Florida included. The University of Miami has always been one, but they're notable because of when they made their rise in the 80s and the 90s. So the marketing standpoint of what it means to have your football game played in the fall during prime time, during random days, there's a lot to be said for that and the money that brings in, but it's also about the viability of the university.
The Big Ten has the money there. The Michigans, the Ohio States, the Penn States, all those schools, between the alumni, between the boosters, the alumni associations, they've got the money to survive this. I'm concerned if the ACC was to not have football this season, Florida State would take a serious hit. We don't have the financial backing that a school like an Ohio State or a Michigan or a Penn State does. That's one of the reasons that helped the Big Ten kind of make this decision. So that's where it comes from at this point. But I also do worry about the health factor. We talked about, like you said, the population is moving south. You got to look at where the hotbeds are right now. I'm living in one here. Broward County, Miami-Dade County are two of the biggest hotbeds of COVID-19 right now in the entire country. And you're telling me if I'm a University of Miami football player, I have to legitimately be concerned about being around this. It's a legitimate concern. And there's a lot of people who want to shrug this off, but you do have to look at the health benefits. And if I don't know what's going to happen to me in 10 years, 20 years, 25 years, I may take a serious look before I play football this season.
If it were me, if it's just a regular student, which is the problem with not calling them what they are. If my child, I don't want them to go. But if they're an athlete, here's the only reason I want them to go is that I know there's a doctor that comes on campus almost every day. So if you get the sniffles, you're going to be there. I know they have the testing that they're going to administer, or they should administer. They have it there, especially with FSU now unleashing their COVID testing center that can get you results in less than 24 hours. I need that. Like, I can't give you that as a parent, right? Like, just like anything else, just like with my surgeries. Like, yeah, if I would have went home to have my surgery, even though I'm from Tallahassee, but like right now, if I hurt myself, and I have to have surgery, I got to go on. Well, I don't, but the traditional person has to go on a wait list and wait for it. Football player, you expedite it to the top of the list, your priority. So like the treatment that you'll get with my health insurance for my kid is better than what I can provide them. That's the only reason. That's like literally the only reason that I like for them to be able to go to do that. And if you can practice and do all of those things, and everybody else is doing it, and like there should be no way to pass it, because again, even the transport of the game, you got chartered buses who they have to take tests to be able to drive it. You got chartered planes who pilots and stewardess have to take tests to be on the chartered plane. You get another chartered bus. The hotel employees force that to be part of your contract with them. It just to make sure that they have recent tests, because you lock down that hotel. That's a bubble, people. That's the only reason. And if nobody has COVID going into the game, you know what should happen after the game? Nobody should have COVID. COVID doesn't exist in a vacuum, and that's what you're creating.
I just feel bad for Mark. Who's he going to root for this season? Wake Forest?
Florida State.
He'd better.
Could be. That's a big question, though.
I'm an LSU fan too right now. I like Coach O.
Coach O, yeah. I heard Coach O right before I jumped on here.
Did you understand what he said?
Gravelly as ever. He was saying basically, we're shutting out all the noise. We're practicing here in Baton Rouge. We're going full throttle. We're playing September 25th, and that's all we know.
Yeah.
Until we hear different, we're going full throttle. Shut out the noise.
On their road to an 8-3 season this year. There's my hot take. LSU will not repeat as national champs. Sorry, I love LSU, but they will not repeat.
Oh yeah. I mean, but if he goes 8-3, that's amazing for him. Like, but yeah. So, but yeah, man. So hopefully we play this season. Hopefully everything goes well. I need Mike Norvell to be successful, because it's very difficult. Unlike you, do a very good job, Mark, of being very neutral for the most part. I try, but I'm not gonna lie. I have a slant for my alma mater. So, but everybody else I treat the same. Everybody else is equal, except for Florida. I may ride them a little bit harder, but
yeah,
for the most part, everybody else is the same. So, I mean, I need them to be successful so I can do my job better.
I just need us to beat Miami. I'm tired of it.
All right, James, where can everybody find you?
At Big Game James _36 on Twitter, IG, and on Facebook. Fifth quarter at Fifth Quarter CFB on Twitter. That's the go-to source for college football, Big 10, not anymore, Big 12, SEC, ACC, as we continue to move forward. We've got the Discord chat where we break news, but it's great articles. If you just go to Fifth Quarter, fifthquarter.net, great articles, great writers. We've done a really good job the last 2 years of growing this brand, and I like it. It's fun.
And that whole spiel was sponsored by Barnacles, where you can just say James Coleman's name, and I guess you might get something off your bill. I don't know what's going on.
Barnaby's, and they probably will give you some extra napkins.
They'll get you extra napkins if you mention James Coleman's name, and that you watch it on MarkRogersTV, the voice of college.
James, I'm taking that seriously, man. I'm going to hit you up, and we're going to go after them.
I'll be in town again on Saturday for my book bag drive, so I'm gonna go by there and say, "Hey, listen, I'm gonna try to stick them up because I gave you a shout out. You need to come over with that bread."
You know he's not coming down to Tallahassee. You know he's just all talk.
Well, he don't gotta be there. We just gotta shout him out and make sure people go there. That's the big thing.
Mark, I've got
the internet, Jason.
Mark, we will get you down to Tallahassee for a game this season.
This season? I don't think this is the season to do it.
If the season happens. I hope
even if the season happens, this isn't the season to do it.
I hope hearing that Logan's eyes are rolling somewhere in Tallahassee.
Oh, your AD, OSU, Ohio State's AD just came out and said there's no chance Ohio State plays anywhere else this season.
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay. Well, yeah.
So, all right, guys, I gotta go put my little one to bed.
Appreciate it, man.
James, Mark,
Jason, thank you. See everybody back here next Tuesday night at 7.